Okay. Give me a second. Forgot water. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol nהיה b'dbarei. L'chaim, everybody. L'chaim. Leslie, it's very dark. I think you need the lights of the menorah.
Nice, yeah. Okay.
Oh, all right. That's better. Okay. A good, a good Chodesh that it was. A good Vach. A Freilach and Hanukkah. Zois Hanukkah. This is Hanukkah. The last day. Encompassing it all. Actually, a special day, l'chaim. So we're going to bring to somewhat a conclusion the amazing saga, the story of Yosef and his brothers. It's taken many a parsha. Very fascinating, full of drama, suspense, and our class is going to be based on Yosef's very simple revelation, his first words to his brothers, and to understand what that means. I am Yosef, ha'od avichai, is my father still alive? And as everything in Torah, you know, we read it. We need the commentaries to really understand it. It's not understood on its own. I mean, of course, we can understand it the way we take it and we understand it. But to get the depth of it, we really need the commentaries. What is Yosef thinking at the time when he says this? How do we understand these words? What was his intent with those words? What's the immediate aftermath of, as a result of those words? We need to appreciate. But before we get into this week, just a brief backup. The backstory is just in case someone isn't familiar with some of the details, which I'm sure you all are, but brothers, of course, are jealous of Yosef, and when he comes on his father's mission alone, they decide, well, this is their opportunity that they can get rid of him, and a debate amongst them what to do. Finally, at least they agree, put him in, well, most of them put him into a pit in the meantime. And eventually he gets sold. As we know, he ends up in Mitzrayim. The brothers didn't even know that he would end up in Egypt. Excuse me. I just have this cough left that I'm taking antibiotics for. So, but Baruch Hashem, I'm feeling much, much better. And in slavery, sold into slavery, works his way up the ranks. Ish Matzliach, he is very successful. So successful that Potiphar's wife is interested in him. He, holding true to his faith, leaves leaves with with nothing in hand, his clothes taken by the wife of Potiphar. And of course, he's jailed because of that, claiming that he tried to rape her. And he spends a couple of years in jail there, where, of course, he interprets dreams for the butler and for the baker. And then when Pharaoh in last week's parsha has his difficult dreams and no one could interpret, Yosef is brought to interpret because the butler remembers, what a great job that he did in his interpretation for his dreams. And interprets, of course, the dreams for Pharaoh, and becomes, as a result, because it wasn't just as a result of his interpretation and the advice that in the interpretation comes to do what it was necessary to do in Mitzrayim in order to alleviate the forthcoming famine after the 7 years of plenty, was the reason why he was made viceroy. And now, after 7 years of plenty, into the famine, here come 10 brothers from Canaan because there's no food left for Yaakov and his family. And Yaakov and Yosef, of course, recognizes them. They don't recognize him because he was a young boy. He was only 17 when he left. He didn't have a beard. So they didn't recognize him now, the 30-year-old. And when they stand before him, he sees that this is an opportunity for everything that needed to come to fruition and to make good on everything that needed to be made good. His dreams come true. They bow to him. And the first thing he's finding out about the family, because they mention about Binyamin, bring down Binyamin. Of course, Yaakov doesn't want that, worried about what would happen. And then finally, after they run out of food, they bring Binyamin. And then, of course, what happened in last week's Parsha, trumped up goblets, goblet put into his sack. And now Binyamin is accused for the crime of theft. And only he will be the servant. And that's where this week's Parsha begins. Right, this week's Parsha. So let us get to this week's Parsha. Here we are. All right. VaYigash, Elav Yehuda. That's the name of the Parsha, VaYigash. And Yehuda approached him and said, "Please, my lord, let now your servant speak something into my lord's ears, and let not your wrath be kindled against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh." What does Rashi comment on this? Oops, there. Rashi says, "And let not your wrath be kindled." From here we learn that he spoke with him harshly. Yehuda courageously steps forward to approach Yosef. Of course, not knowing that he is Yosef. And he's begging for Binyamin's release. He offers himself in his brother's place. And then there's an unusual repetition of the previous episode. Yehuda recounts the conversation in detail. He explains to him that they mentioned Binyamin in the first place only because they were honestly answering all of his questions. And then how their father didn't want that Binyamin should travel because there could be misfortune that would befall him. And Yehuda took personal responsibility, guaranteed that his younger brother would be safe. And then finally, Binyamin is the only remaining son from Rachel. And if they return without Binyamin, the pain will surely destroy their father. Let's see it in the original. Is that large? Can you see it? Actually, I can make it larger. It doesn't give me the plus over here. Okay, so it's legible? Yeah? Oh, okay, great. My Lord asked his servant, saying, have you a father or a brother? And he said to my Lord, we have an old father and a young child of his old age, and his brother is dead. And he is left alone. He is left alone of his mother, and his father loves him. And you said to your servants, bring him down to me, and I will see with my eye, set my eyes upon him. And we said to my Lord, the boy cannot leave his father, for if he leaves his father, he will die. So now, please let your servants stay instead of the boy as a slave to my Lord, and may the boy go up with his brothers. For now I will go to my father. If the boy is not with me, let me not see the misery that will befall my father. So Yosef, of course, is extremely moved by this. Firstly, he sees that they've done complete tshuva, taking complete responsibility. And that's being expressed by taking complete responsibility for Binyamin, right? Complete responsibility for him. And because of the care and the self-sacrifice that they're exhibiting right now, he can no longer contain himself emotionally. He tells everyone the Egyptians to leave. And this is, of course, where he reveals himself to his brothers. Now Yosef could not bear all those standing beside him, and he called out, take everyone away from me. So no one stood with him when Yosef made himself known to his brothers. And he wept out loud, so the Egyptians heard, and the house of Pharaoh heard. And Yosef said to his brothers, I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him because they were startled by his presence. Then Yosef said to his brothers, please come close to me. And they drew closer, and he said, I am your brother Yosef, whom you sold into Egypt. So we read the whole context of what's going on. Is any difficulty that you have in the response of, or in Yosef's revelation to his brothers? Anybody? Any difficulty in it? Michael, you're speaking, but I don't hear you.
No, I missed the question. I was about to answer somebody in the chat. Sorry.
The question is, do you see something that's incongruent, something that doesn't fit in what Yosef is saying?
Well, first of all, the brothers said that Yehuda said his brother was dead. He knew he sold him into slavery, so I don't know how he concluded he was dead. In addition, I think there's a problem.
Okay.
I mean, I still don't trust them because they were sent down, and Jacob said, because you're good looking, go through the 10 separate gates, and then only after I don't know if it's coming up, but it's like basically after their lives are threatened. And I don't see real attrition here. I think he would have said anything at this point in time.
Well, first of all, my question is on what Yosef is saying. You're saying on the brothers. Your question is on the brothers.
The brothers came down and were told by Jacob to come through the 10 separate gates. They weren't looking for the brother. There was nothing in any midrash or anything I've seen that says they were looking for the brothers. He only
Rashi says
Well, okay, but Jacob sent them down there. I don't know how we got jumped. They went down there for famine to get fed. And I'm simply saying that they then in essence told Joseph that they were looking for the brothers, and that's the reason why they came through the 10 gates. I don't know. I still don't trust them, even as
Okay, well, it seems like Yosef doesn't have such a difficulty in trusting. And my question really is, I hear what you're saying, but Rashi does say they came through 10 different gates to comb the city to see if they could find Yosef. That's what Rashi says. but they did say that this befell them. That also, that's a clear verse, actually, a verse in last week, that everything that has been befallen them is a result of the fact that they sold their brother, and they said that in front of Joseph. So I think there was some kind of awareness that they made some kind of mistake, right? There is, but that's not answering my question. My question is, what is Yosef? What is in his statement something difficult?
My thought actually was that Joseph was more of a trickster like Jacob and like the brothers had been earlier, that they're all following in each other's line because of the things he's putting them through. But he's trying to decide if he can trust them and believe them, that they really are apologizing in their own way for what they had done in the past.
Okay. Not answering my question. Davida, go ahead. Everybody's got their own questions today. That's great. No problems.
Rabbi Fine, I just want to know, why is it repeated? He first says, I am Yosef.
Right.
But then later on, he says again, I am your brother Yosef. So if they knew.
Excellent. We'll get there later. Excellent question. But that was not my question. You guys are good, but you're not answering my question. Anybody else? Good, Davida. We'll get there later, Mitzvah Hashem.
I may have missed the question, Rabbi Fine, but why didn't he say that Jacob would feel bad if Benjamin came down, and then he says, "Why is my father still alive?" Didn't he know that?
Thank you, Alice. That's the simple question. Like, what's he saying? Is my father still alive? What does that mean? He didn't know. Of course he knew. Well, we just went through the whole conversation. Yehuda was repeating a repetition of everything that had occurred in the previous parsha. He's recounting now. And what is he recounting? That about his father. That his father, you can't bring Benjamin down because the father won't be able to live if he won't come back. So what are you asking him? Is he alive? That's a pretty simple question. Pretty obvious, actually, right? All right. Alice, way to go. You said you weren't paying attention. It sounds like you are paying attention.
Having a discussion with my son-in-law, who's a rabbi, about we were at the dinner table, so it's a little bit.
Okay, that always helps. That always helps. Okay. So, folks, you have to get a son-in-law that's a rabbi, so you know.
Yeah, Chabad.
All right. Okay. So, so one can ask, why does Joseph ask, is my father still alive? If already prior to the revealing himself to his brothers, he had inquired about his father's welfare, so obviously he knew that Jacob was still alive. So this is what we need to understand. Obviously, there's something more going on over here. right, what is going on. So let's go different commentaries to understand this. First is will be the Abarbanel. Abarbanel was the leader of the Spanish Jewry during the expulsion from Spain. Was actually a minister in the government, and chose, of course, to be expelled rather than forsake his heritage. So Yosef knows that when he reveals himself, what's going to happen? His brother's going to feel extremely ashamed. So what does he want to do? He wants to shift the attention. Instead of putting the full attention on himself that he is alive, he wants to shift the attention to, is my father still alive? And from that inquiry, he wanted to go into then finding out about the rest of the family. That's what he wanted to do. So Barbanel says, this then is the reason Yosef asked, is my father still alive? He was actually determining whether or not their father was still alive, for they already said so, to which he already responded, how was your elderly father faring? Rather, Joseph is trying to enter into conversation, as he knew his brothers would be ashamed and would not wish to discuss the sale. So he opted to discuss other matters, choosing to start with his father's welfare. Joseph intended to thereafter inquire after their families and household matters, but refrained from doing so when he saw how shocked they were. Is there a precedent for such an idea? Go ahead, Andrew.
No, I don't understand the question. The precedent for what?
Is there a precedent for this idea that, you need to confront somebody and you don't want to shame them, so you kind of you approach before coming with any rebuke, with any harsh words or anything, that you come with from another angle, so to speak?
Yeah, Rabbi, I think it might be Hashem in the garden.
Oh, very good.
He addressed Adam.
Oh, excellent. All right. Ayeka, where art thou? Exactly. They had sinned. And instead of coming directly and said, what did you do over here? First he says, Ayeka, where art thou? To come into them in a conversation outside of the issue at hand, in order to make more gentle the landing, so to speak. Very good, Denny. Thank you. As it says, Yikra Elokim, Hashem Elokim El Adam, Vayemar Lo Ayeka, and the Lord God called to man and said to him, where are you? And as Rashi explains, where are you? He knew where he was, just as Joseph knew about his father, right? He knew where he was, but he asked him this and to enter into conversation with him, lest he be frightened to answer if he should punish him suddenly. So with Cain, God said to him, where is your brother Abel? And so with Bilam, who are these men with you? For the purpose of entering conversation with them. Is there any difficulty with this explanation of the Abarbanel? Does anybody see a difficulty with it?
No, seems okay for me, with me.
Seems okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I didn't see it coming.
So the difficulty is that if the whole reason is to create a diversion right? If that's the whole purpose in asking, is my father still alive? Then, why would you make a diversion with something that you already are aware of? So bring up about the family. I'm Yosef. How are you and the family doing? Or, why bring it the diversion, the conversation, piece, so to speak, doesn't seem to be, is my father still alive? We're just talking about that. So it doesn't seem to fit in perfectly with the context of what's going on.
I don't know, doesn't Joseph have an agenda too? He knows his dream's not fulfilled. He needs to get his father down there so he could be part of the family that bows to him. He believes in dreams. He understands God has given him that. The dream can't be fulfilled until he gets down there. He still doesn't trust that they're telling the truth.
What do you, no, no. They trust it. What do you mean? They think that what? His father isn't alive? No, how did that make sense? They're making up a whole story that
They've got to get, because they've got to go back, and he's got to somehow get them to bring their father down to him.
Right, but first of all, that's not explaining these words. Like, let's focus on these words that he's saying. That's the question over here, right? The question is, these are the words that he said. What is the intent? What does it mean, these words? We have a difficulty. He knows that his father's alive. He knows that. That's not a question. So the question is, why is he saying it? So the Barbanel is saying is because it was an opening conversation piece in order to take the emphasis on the fact that I'm Joseph, right? And therefore, so take away that in order to, we'll speak about something else. Fine. So speak about something else. Speak about something else that is a real question, a real, something that's real. That's not real. Asking, is my father still alive? Right? And you could be, and if you want a conversation piece, right, to divert the attention from them being ashamed, which is commendable, which is beautiful, but it seemingly would be something else that he would be saying. That's the question that Rebbe asks on the Abarbanel, actually. It's not my question. Okay, we're good?
Yeah. Hey, can I say something? Or maybe I'm jumping ahead.
If it's jumping ahead, so then let's wait. I want to take it step by step. I don't want to jump ahead.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Eliana. Okay. So the Rebbe says there's another way to understand the words, is my father still alive, does not have to be understood as a question, with a question mark, but more like an exclamation mark. Like, how's this possible that my father is still alive? In other words, in wonderment, not disbelieving the fact, but like, how is it that he is indeed still alive is the question. It's like when God comes to Cain and says, where's your brother Abel? So what does he say? Am I my brother's keeper, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Cain isn't asking if he is his brother's keeper. he was expressing with skepticism, right? I'm my brother's keeper, right? Yosef is saying my father is still alive? How? He's astonished. How could it be? Now, where's that astonishment and that bewilderment coming from? So that comes from something that we've already learned. What did we learn? We learned earlier that all of his sons and all of his daughters arose to console him, but he refused to be consoled. Right? They came back with the coat of many colors. It was bloodstained, and he refused to be consoled. Why? Says Rashi, but he refused to be consoled. No one accepts consolation for a person who really is alive, but believed to be dead. For it is decreed that a dead person should be forgotten from the heart, but not a living person. Interesting. So what this means is someone who passes away, God allows us to slowly but surely, with time, we forget. Right. But when someone is truly alive, their whereabouts is known. The agony is relentless. Yaakov did not have closure for 22 years. And Yosef knows this, that he doesn't have closure. And as a result, he is bewildered at the pain that his father must have been going through. Great pain and suffering all these years. And this is what his question is, which then what he says thereafter makes a lot of sense. He says, urgently go and hurry, don't delay, go bring our father, return with him, tell him the good news. And it was an emphasis of not delaying, because every moment is precious. Every moment is precious. Is that clear? Any questions? Any questions?
Not a question, just that
Go
Joseph,
ahead.
Jacob refused to be consoled. He always believed that maybe Joseph is still alive. So
Right. That's the point we just made. Exactly.
Yeah. I did not. That was from Rashi. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the verse tells us that he refused to be consoled, and Rashi explains the reasoning behind it, because in the end, he actually is alive. And therefore, the decree that God makes that a person should forget someone who has passed on with time is a decree with someone who has actually passed on. And you see that people, after many years, like an Israeli soldier that's, been captured, and there isn't closure. There isn't closure. Right.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Andrew.
It's always bothered me that he probably understood the stress his father would have gone through, yet wouldn't he have understood that by keeping Benjamin, the youngest, he would have put him through the same stress? They had to go back and say, Benjamin had to be left behind.
Oh, he had no intention to keep Benjamin. The
he
whole-
had no intention, but the fact that they would have even gone back to discuss that, it would have been rehashing almost, God forbid he should lose Benjamin.
Oh, no, of course, you're right. But there was no intent in him that would happen.
Not in Joseph,
He wouldn't have allowed that to happen, that they go back with and inflict that kind of pain on their father. That wasn't the part of Benjamin was. What was the part of Benjamin? We mentioned it. It's part of their tshuva, of that they are taking care of their brother. They're taking care of their younger brother. Total self-sacrifice, total dedication. That's the idea of Benjamin. So that's an integral part to the process over here. That's an integral part to the process. If you wouldn't have that, then it would be hard. The concept of tshuva is that when you're put into a similar position when you did something wrong, right? Okay, it's not the exact same kind of situation, but are you going to be there for the other? So they were. Okay. Vilma, is this a question, a comment? Because I want to move on. I see your hand is up.
Yeah, so Joseph orchestrated this as, it seems to me very purposeful from the perspective of a tzaddik to really make sure the reunion was appropriate, or that there was forgiveness and all that, and the shuva and from a righteous perspective.
Exactly. Yeah, it was calculated. It was all part of a responsibility that he had. Exactly. And like you said, Vilma, being a righteous individual, which we're going to get more into. We'll get more into this concept, and thank you for mentioning that, because I think that's the key over here is we're talking about a righteous person and what it means to do it in the righteous way, which we're going to continue on that thought. Okay, let's continue on that thought now. Let's now take how those words these are Yosef's words, and what we learned till now is the intent of Yosef, right? What was with the Abarbanel and then the Rebbe's explanation that the bewilderment of his father being alive, and therefore the necessity of hurry down and bring him back. Let him first know and then bring him back. But now let's shift the focus on the feelings of the brothers and how they experienced it, right? So the brothers couldn't respond, right? Why? Because they were frightened. They were overwhelmed, taken aback, with shame. According to other commentaries, there was still not just shame, but there was a sense of fear too. Because after all, he's a powerful ruler. Their survival is dependent on him. And who knows what he wants to do? He may want to take revenge. Right? So So the Talmud tells us that when Elazar reached this verse that we're learning, he cried. And his brethren could not answer him, for they were affrighted at his presence. He said, Rebbe Lazar, if the rebuke of a man of flesh and blood was such that the brothers were unable to respond when it comes to the rebuke of the Holy One, blessed be he, all the more so. So commentaries wonder, what rebuke is here in Yosef's words, right? When he's revealing himself and he's saying, I am your brother Yosef, is my father still alive? He doesn't mention anything. He doesn't mention about being sold into Egypt, only thereafter, right? So what is he crying about? The rebuke? So let's see, there's a deeper way to look at this. From the Malbim. The Malbim says, this being startled was a mixture of astonishment and fear. For when he said, I am Yosef, they feared revenge, as if he was saying, how could my father be alive after all the pain you caused him by selling me? So according to the Malbim, Yosef's words in the context of the brothers, right, of Yehuda's previous argument, well, what was Yehuda's previous argument? We can't cause our father pain because Binyamin will not go back to him. He will surely suffer greatly. Well, so now I am Yosef. That creates the fear, maybe even the fear of revenge. Is my father still alive? Meaning, because you sold me, how they're taking the words, right? We're talking about now how the words are being taken by the brothers. How could you not have been concerned with our father's sorrow and sold me into slavery? You don't know if you could withstand the sorrow. Just as Yehuda, now you just in the context. What's the context? Yehuda is saying that our father can't withstand the sorrow of Binyamin's loss. Well, I am Yosef, your brother. Is my father still alive? How is he alive? How did you put him through such sorrow by selling me? This is the rebuke that's inferred under the so between the lines, so to speak. How is Yosef giving this rebuke? With no animosity. All he's pointing is to the pain that was caused to his father, and not what the misdeeds that were done to him, which is an amazing idea. In other words, when it comes to rebuking another individual, there's two major components that are involved. One is that the person, what their intent is. What is in your mind and your heart when you're rebuking? And the second is how the message is delivered. What's the tone of voice? The words of choice, right? So Yosef went about rebuking his siblings in a way that the intent was very clear, was not to shame. It wasn't coming from a place of resentment. It came from a place of deep commitment and love, actually, to his brothers. But pained on how they could make their father suffer all this time. Not even what he went through. as clearly, what does he say that what he went through? So let's take a look over here. 1 second. So they're unable to respond. And Yosef said to his brothers, please come closer to me. And they drew closer. And he said, I'm your brother Yosef, who you sold into Egypt. But now do not be sad, and let it not trouble you that you sold me here. For it was to preserve life that God sent me before you. So what do we see over here? The sensitivity of the brother, right? You sold me into Egypt. I'm your brother, Joseph. So now I think who earlier mentioned, I forgot now, David, I think you mentioned, right? You asked the question, why is he repeating himself? Because I said that I'm your brother. Before he says, I am Yosef. Now he adds, I am your brother. I'm your brother. I love you. And who you sold into Egypt, right? Don't be sad about that. Don't be sad about that. God had a plan. This is part of God's plan, right? So he spoke to them. First, he spoke to them, I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? In other words, I'm Yosef, which startled them. They had fear from that, right? Fear that it's Yosef. And then, is my father still alive? In other words, how did you put him in a very gentle way? He not saying it in an obvious way, right? But underlining those words is how did you put my father through such pain and suffering all these years, right? So first he is in his harshness. It's a gentle harshness. It's not in the face in a nasty way at all. But even then he changes his demeanor completely and he draws them close. He says he drew them closer. Now he says, I'm your brother. And that what you did to me was for good. So he's not rebuking them for that. Or Chaim says, I am your brother Yosef. The reason he repeated the fact that it was Yosef a second time was because he felt that there were two possible reasons why the brothers could not respond to him. They were afraid of him and they could not answer him, just as the thief cannot answer when caught red-handed. Or two, they simply did not believe him when he claimed to be Yosef. To dispel their fear of him, he stressed the words, your brother, in the statement. In the next sentence, after which he formed the impression that they did not believe him, he stressed the words, your brother whom you sold, indicating that even at the time they had sold him, he had not ceased feeling like a brother towards them. He added the words, whom you sold to Egypt, as a proof that it was really him, Yosef. For not even a prophet could have known that fact, right? Because he wasn't sold to he was from one caravan to the next and finally made it down to Egypt, right? So what do we see over here in the rebuke that he's giving? How careful he is to consider the feelings of his brothers after they're shocked with his initial response to them, with his initial, again, I guess it's a rebuke, but in a very gentle, like between the lines, kind of rebuke, not in your face type of rebuke, right? But then he shifts when he sees that was too much. He shifts because he recognizes they weren't ready for it. And this is the principle that we learn in the Talmud. Sages taught that it should always be the left weaker hand that pushes another away and the right stronger hand that draws one near. So this is the appropriate attitude that and how to deal. And of course, when it comes, and that's before you can then make sure that this is done appropriately. And there's another quality over here, is that Rebbe says in Hayom Yom, the teachings of Chassidus demand that before rebuking someone else, one should cut their nails, figuratively, so that people will not scratch each other. For the forces of klipa, negative energy, cling to the nails. That's why we cut nails. We like klipa. You gotta, right, cut it away. So nails is klipa. And it is. It's a covering over the finger. So every prick unleashed klipa and other such negative energy. So in other words, we need to know within ourselves what is motivating me when I am, when someone hurts me, someone has pained me, someone has done something to me, and excuse me, someone has pained me, someone has hurt me. So the first thing I need to do is to look inside of me and to know where I'm coming from. Am I coming from a place where my nails, I want to kind of get back at a person? Am I motivated in any way to get back at that individual? Then there will never be that I'm going to do and say the things in the appropriate way. So the first thing is to check that within ourselves when we are in a healthy place. So what does that mean? It means that, our natural inclination is to respond immediately when someone says something nasty, hurtful, or whatever the case may be to us. And usually that's, shooting from the hip. That's usually not going to come from a good place. And the best thing is to allow it to enter, to filter through, and that you're coming from a good and healthy place where you actually have the benefit of the other individual, which is usually a loved one, in mind, instead of any kind of hate or whatever. And when you can do that, then the words that you will use will be an appropriate words, because then you'll be able to do it with the left hand gently, right? And that's what he did. He used the left hand gently to push away and saying, I'm Yosef, which that itself brought fear to them, right? And is my father alive, still alive? Which was saying, how could he be alive from what you've pained him these 22 years. And it's done in a very gentle manner. But when he sees that they're not even ready for that, it's too much. So then he brings them close. He brings them close. That's what he does. And that's the story. That's the story. All right. Any questions? Any comments? Beautiful lesson for us in our lives. Vilma, go ahead.
So it's very interesting that you talk about the nails as being like that harsh metaphor, like, you know, like that metaphor of clawing back. And I've kind of used that nail metaphor before without knowing this, just to describe how some people can be very harsh. And then, you know, it's like when people see the nails come out, it's like you kind of are stunned and you're like scared to approach, you know, even
Right.
at that time. And it's a really good metaphor. Like I've used it, you know, like don't use your kitty claws with me because I can see them coming.
Right. Exactly. Well, we now know the source. It's a Hasidic saying in Hayom Yom. Thank you. Yeah, Michael. By the way, there's Rabbi Mendy is going to be having a program over here. I think Davida, is it called for 8 o'clock?
Yes.
It's called for 8 o'clock. Okay.
8 o'clock.
Okay, so you're here early.
Around.
Okay,
That's good.
so make yourself at home. Go ahead, Michael.
Just saying, I made comments in the chat, but I just said it's very profound because I've had the nails come out at me, and you don't want to do anything to make things worse, and it's been very troubling over time. So that's very profound for me tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, it is.
I intend to use that over the next couple of weeks. I've already been thinking the same.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, it is definitely a very profound idea. Oh, how come everybody's coming in at 7:30? If it's at 8 o'clock, okay, welcome.
Oh, it's 7:30 here by fine.
Oh, it's called for 7:30?
7:30 is lighting the menorah with Mendy, and 8 o'clock it's that Zoom around the world.
Ah, okay, gotcha. Okay, so where's Mendy?
There was a balloon that popped up. He is saying that Mendy will be in 5 minutes. It was a few minutes ago.
Aha.
Okay.
Okay. So look at that, how perfect it is that we're here.
Yeah.
How perfect, how perfect. All right. So for those who would like to stay for Rabbi Mendy and a Zoom around the world, first is going to be lighting menorah, Hanukkah celebration, and then at 8 o'clock, I think it is Melbourne, right? Melbourne, it'll be 10 o'clock in the morning, I think. If I'm not mistaken.
9 or 10.
Maybe 11 o'clock. Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, you should be coming on now.
Andrew, if you can hear me, I spent 2 weeks a year in New Jersey, Manhattan. Had all my family up that way.
Oh, yeah, in Englewood?
Yeah. And
That's
around
Bergen.
and other places around all over the North Jersey.
That's Bergen County. I grew up in Oakland in North Jersey.
I know Oakland. I had family there too.
How long ago in Oakland did they, I was there from 61 to 91.
Oh, this is about the same, longer than that. They were there to 60s to the 90s, somewhere in there.
We only had one small synagogue.
Oh, okay. And let me making you host. All right, you're a host.
Okay,
The host with the most.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Rabbi
What
Fine.
is it?
All righty.
Oh,
Hello,
okay.
everybody. We are almost ready to roll. Thank you. We're going to. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, Mendy,
Yes.
should I, it's on Facebook. You want it on Facebook?
Sure.
Actually, you know what? Can you restart it? So that way, I need it for the class. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No problem.
How do I?
Yeah. Okay, welcome one, welcome all. We are here on our, after learning Torah, now we're ready to light the menorah, and then we're going to go on to the zooming around the world. We're heading off to Australia to share in the Hanukkah joy with my fellow Australian.
Sorry, Mendy, can you
Yes.
just close the Facebook and restart it?
Oh, I have to. Yes, I will.
Because you're the host
Okay.
now. I can't do it.